Ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future.
Your kid's getting $2,000 in that $1,000.
For the first time ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in.
What's going on here?
So billionaires.
I got too many videos from you.
Trump baby account just turned into $2,000 for a lot of families. Chase announced they're matching it. Bank of America, they're matching it. Intel's matching it too. So if you work for one of those companies, your kid's getting $2,000 instead of one. But even if you don't, there may still be a way for you to get it, and I'll share that with you too. Here's how it works. The federal government puts in the first $1,000. Every eligible child gets that. It's the baseline. But some employers, like the ones I mentioned, are now stepping in and matching it with another $1,000 invested in the market before your kid is even old enough to walk. Now, here's the important part, because not every company is doing this. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you work for a large employer and just had a baby, or you're expecting, go talk to HR and ask one simple question. Are we matching Trump account contributions? That one question could be worth thousands for your kid down the road. Follow me for real financial updates that actually matter.
For the first time ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a.
So billionaires Michael and Susan Dell.
For the first time ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future, head start at life, and a fair shot at the American dream, something people don't talk about so much, at least not for the last 4 years they haven't been. We'll fund those personal accounts with a seed contribution of $1,000, which will compound and grow over the course of their lives and could grow into very, very substantial numbers. Parents, employers, churches, states, and loved ones will also be able to add up to $5,000 in additional money for those accounts. And with every modest contribution, Trump accounts should reach at least $50,000 in value by the time the child turns 18, and could be very substantially more than that. With slightly greater contributions, the typical account will grow to $100,000, $200,000, and can even grow up to past $300,000 per child. And we think most likely, the most likely cases in the $200,000, $300,000 range.
All right, guys. I appreciate you guys joining. I know I'm struggle streaming just a little bit, but welcome to tonight's live. This is my first live on the Wealth Talks Legacy Walks channel, which I hope to do more of these and also break down systems. So tonight, we're not here to argue about the headlines. We're here to talk about structure, time, and outcomes. Now, you hear a lot of noise that's been going on right now on this conversation about the new baby fund, but very little conversation about how it actually works, what it can realistically do, and what it can't. And that's, I did a little short about that. And more importantly, what happens after the child turns 18. And that's paramount, because at first, nobody can touch this fund unless it's some type of emergency. But up until the child is 18, this fund is 100% secured and locked in based on its growth pattern and whatever policy or whatever fund it gets put into. Okay. But in the world where things like Social Security may not look the same for the next generation, which, hey, I'll be lucky if I get it and I'm 58. You know, God only knows what our children and our children's children might have the advantage of taking advantage of in Social Security, that is. You know, this is the kind of conversation we'll have here, because this channel, Wealth Talks, Legacy Walks, we're not chasing hype. We're not looking for long-term thinking, real strategy. We're looking for long-term thinking and real strategies and how families can prepare their kids for down the road, okay? And I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to dispel what's going on in these different systems, from, you know, real estate to this policy here to even investments. So I'll be bringing people on from time to time and sharing their angle and their experience in the world of finance and the world of real estate and other things. I have a young man that's in the back that I'm about to bring up, very well known throughout the small community that we're in, but well respected. You know, he's a former Marine, just like me, which we're always Marines. You know, got out of the Marine Corps, worked embassy work, did some traveling, and has become a very successful young man when it comes to his independent wealth. You know, so this is a guy that's been tried and true, been down that road where you guys are either starting or already ventured down, and has his own success story. So without further ado, I'm going to bring out Financial Frontier, new channel, but revised. It used to be formerly known as Obstacles to Opportunity. But we're going to go by first names. And Sean, welcome to the channel, my brother.
You gave me that crazy intro.
Hey.
Much respect. I appreciate it. Thank you for the intro. Obstacles to Opportunity and the Financial Frontier USA is here. I greatly appreciate you inviting me to the stream to talk about Trump's 1000 baby fund.
All right. So you heard the first couple videos, and I got a guy that's going to go through a 19-minute video, and we're going to hop around on that one. But what is your first initial thoughts on this new plan? Is it a trap? Is it a setup for helping out? And a lot of people are going to say this, so that's why I'm saying it. You know, a lot of people think Trump is trying to help out certain industries with monies being funneled through them, and other things are basically he's helping out his buddies. You know, what do you have to say about what you see right now initially and how this fund is turning out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. I mean, it's a positive thing, whether it was Democrats or Republicans, Trump or Biden or Harris that did it. I think that it would be crucial and important for people, period. whether they're going to get started or not. I mean, Singapore does something that's similar to this, so it's not nothing new underneath the earth or on the earth. And so at the end of
Right.
the day, I'm waiting to see what's going on. As far as the negativity, that's always going to be there. And so there's always going to be somebody that disagrees with something, and I hear that. But unless I have clear evidence beyond the reason of doubt that there's corruption, then I'm not really worried about it too much.
Right. So, this is an official thing. It's actually in the IRS tax code now. Everything is set up. So as of July, or what was it, July the 5th, the day after Independence Day, this kicks in. Okay. So a lot of things are going on as far as who's eligible. Now, there's two systems that are going on at the same time. There's one system funded by the federal government, which starts July 5th as well. And then there's an independent outside organizations, foundations such as the Dell Corporation, which we'll talk about, the Dell Foundation, that is. And that's set up by Michael Bell, or Dell, who is the computer guy. Everybody's heard of Dell Computers. Him and his wife had donated $6.25 billion to contribute to children at ages 10 and less. Okay. Now it's not as much. It's only $250, but it's still a head start down the road. Any money put into a fund right now for a child at birth or even after birth still has the potential of growth factors, so that by the time they become of age, they do have money available. Now, I think a lot of financial planning and a lot of people that don't understand finances have plenty of time to learn what they need to within the 8 or even 18 years to know what they need to do with that child's fund, or advise that child in what they need to do as they move forward after they hit the age of 18. But were you aware of the donation that was going to be given by the Dells?
No, I wasn't aware specifically of the Dells, but am I surprised? Not really. A lot of
Mhm.
companies, a lot of titans from industries do these type of things. I mean, I often say that corporate America is almost a form of communism in the aspect that they give you a percentage in ownership. So the worker actually gets paid in equity. We know stock options, we know stock rewards, purchase plans, and then they put a lot of money in your IRA, 401ks, and obviously a baby fund now. And so I'm not surprised. This is something that they have done already throughout industries and big business.
Okay. Well, let's get into this guy that wants to break down the system and how it works and how it's set up. And there's a lot of hype. I'm going to go through a couple pages here from the Trump accounts website. This is a legitimate website that's already established so that you can start pre-registering your kids. And it starts to talk about how things are set up for your children. And it gives some pretty pie in the sky types of viewpoints here. It does allow the child, like I said, we talked about this. But let's go into some of these hypotheticals. We're going to start with the age of 18. So you heard Donald Trump throw out some high numbers of 300,000, and that's all based on contribution. Okay. So your child account based on the $1,000 and whatever the interest bearing rate is on the fund that you put, and there's going to be, I think, a couple choices that you can authorize. How it works is when you file your taxes that year, you enroll your child as long as they have a social security number. So obviously, once you have a baby, it takes a couple weeks to get the social security number. You file, it causes your child to be eligible based on that social security number, and you pick the fund that they want to put the money into. You don't have access to it. Okay. It's for your child, which is a plus. Because obstacles, we know back in the day, a lot of parents were using social security numbers of their children in order to turn on the lights, the cable, and all this other stuff. By the time the child grew up, what was going on? The kid was already in debt, and that's unfortunate. So on this first screen here, you'll see that as of the age of 18, if you put nothing in the fund starting at $1,000, you'll have $6,000 for that child at the age of 18. If you're putting in $250 a year, which is not a lot of money, the child at the age of 18 will have 19,000. And then if you're actually putting in the $5,000 a year for your child, which if you break that down, it's not much per month. It's like a little payment, but at least it's a payment towards your child's future. $271,000. That's a large sum of money for an 18-year-old child, but it also gets them ahead if they want to go to college. Guess what? The funding's right there. And the second thing is that fund continues to grow. You don't get full access to it even at the age of 18. They're smart. I structured something like this for my nephew when my brother was shot and killed. We structured something just like this. At the age of 18, they'll have access to up to 50% of the fund. Okay. By the time they're 25, which means the rest of the fund will still be able to mature, as long as you're still contributing, it's still going to gain a rapid amount of interest, compounding. Okay. So even at 271,000, if they have access to half of it, at least they didn't blow it all. They can buy a little car. They can go ahead and fund their college and go ahead and go down to college, start learning. They already should be financially savvy if you're teaching your child early on by the time they get to 18. And God only knows what the technology is going to be. They're saying what obstacles? AI is going to be some of the fastest way of developing millionaires in the next 10 years. You know, you don't know what these kids are starting off with. If you're exposing them to AI, you're exposing them to all these things, what little programs or things they'll develop way before they become 18. You know, but even if you don't decide to go to college, they will have access to a certain amount of money. Then at 25, they get the rest of the money accessible to it. Now, what are some of the key things about this policy that you are aware of? Obstacles. It's an IRA account. So what does that mean to us? We know what it is, but do they know? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So an IRA account is basically a tax deferred account, just like a 401k. Okay. So no, you're not paying taxes. No, it's not taxable until you touch it. Some people might say it's diabolical that the government would give each kid $1,000, let it rapidly increase. Well, not rapidly, but over the years increase so that they have a huge tax base when that child goes to touch the money. But that's a negative way of looking at it. That's still that child would never have access to that money unless they participated in this fund and their parents did the right thing for their child. That money would have never been there because they don't start getting Social Security right off the bat. You know, unless you were smart as a parent and brought a Gerber plan, and that's basically a little policy that you can buy from for your child when they're born. They won't have any money anyway. Do you see any negative downturns only giving them access to 18, or do you see the wisdom behind that? Obstacles?
No, it's extremely smart. I mean, again, it follows other policies that other countries have. I was just looking at a couple, like the UK has something of similar. Israel, South Korea, Kazakhstan, Singapore, Canada. There's different variations to it, but a good portion of them lock people in until they're 18, 21 in Israel, 18 when you're in United Kingdom. And of course, as we know, it's smart because the individual really takes time to actually develop. As they say, it takes the actual person to their 25 to fully develop. And so at the end
Right.
of the day, just pushing it out, it's a smart thing to do.
Right. And it's an option. You don't have to touch the fund until you're 25 and have full access to it. That's up to your child. Maybe your child's smart enough and has a wherewithal to say, hey, I already got a college scholarship. I can get grants and everything else. Why would I want to touch that fund? Let it grow until it's 25. You're going to have kids that are smart enough to understand that if you start training them now.
And what's
But if
going to
you
be
mess
before
around,
18? What's going to be
hmm?
before 18, 21, and 25? What are you going to do? Say, I can unlock it at 10 years old? Like, I mean, what are
Right.
we talking about? What is that point, right? And so at the end of the day, it's saying something like 18 or post 18. It's completely fine. I think that's more reasonable. I don't know if anybody would want to be accessing the fund when they're 15 years old, and then somebody's going to make the argument. Like, okay, you can argue by yourself. We're going to continue to move forward. It's 18 up.
Right. And then, like I said, even with the $5,000 contribution, that's a basic payment of $200 a month for your child's future. Now, obviously, if you're having baby after baby after baby, and we know some of these women and men that do that, you better be making a large lump sum of money if you really care about your children. You know what I mean? So at $200 a month, that's a livable type of payment that's going to contribute to your child's future, especially if they're not guaranteed to have Social Security. Even at the $250 per year, that's about $50 a month till the age of 18. And then if they already have a job, they can contribute. The maximum amount of money that can be put into these funds is $5,000 a year. You max out at $5,000. You can't add additional because you have extra. Go start another fund. And we're going to talk about other funds later. So if you have the extra additional wherewithal and money, there's other things you can put it in that will allow that money to grow tax-free. A Roth IRA, which mirrors IRA, but it's tax-free when you touch it even too, because it's growing tax-free. You already put taxed money into it. So there's ways of growing your money without you having to pay taxes later. Okay. But this is the first idea. And then we're going to go to the second one for the 250 to the age of 27, I believe. They have the model for it. And some of these are pie in the sky numbers you would think, but not really. Let me do this one. Now remember these numbers at 18. That's the age of 27. The age of 27, look if you're consistent. You're consistent with the $200 a month. Even if you offset your child's payment, say they can only afford $100 a month, or they're dedicated to wanting to grow that fund and not touch it. You're setting them up for success after they get out of college. Brother, what would you have done with $742,000 accessible to you after you got done with college? You got your college degree. That damn thing is paid off. You're not going to have to worry about college debt, because that could be paid off or even split off to a third of what you would have had to pay. What could you have done with your young mind with $742,000 at the age of 27? I know I would have been dangerous if I know what I know now. I would have been.
Do for it. Oh, what you want me to do, master? Type of. I'll come with the energy. What you need me to start tap dancing for that amount of capital? I mean, that's almost, you're almost a millionaire, and there's a difference between being a liquid millionaire, and so that's a lot of capital. I mean, people maybe when they're 50 or 40, they're lucky to get to that number, and then now you got it at 27 because you started the runway early. We're talking about bringing retirement to possibly 35 versus 55 and 65. That's almost a 50% reduction in your exit strategy.
Right.
That is ridiculous.
It is. Wait until you see the other number. Now, I've seen some numbers on this page that were pie in the sky, and we're going to break those down to 65 years. If you don't touch the fund, you continue to fund it, and you leave it alone. The potential earnings in this policy. Now, what are the odds on somebody never touching this fund? Some individuals that maybe are already successful, some individuals that probably are coming from successful families might not ever touch this fund and use it as a secondary offset of something they can use later because their parents are independently wealthy, or they already own businesses, or they were lucky enough that, maybe they got a college scholarship. They jumped out of college, no debt, and then ran right into a company that was netting them well over six figures. That does happen from time to time. So, here's the thing though. How many people in our current situation in our world would never have access to this type of money because their parents don't have the wherewithal, the financial sense, and they weren't prepared and they were stressed out because they have multiple kids in the family. There's way too many single parent homes nowadays that are going on where parents don't have the extra income in order to finance something like this. Now, these numbers are a little bit unbelievable. And as I went through my research, I was like, there ain't no way. That's a little off kilter. That's not taking in for volatile years of loss. That's looking at if the market stayed up, and constantly kept on growing, those numbers would be obtainable. But I'm telling you right now, that's I've gone through it round and around with ChatGPT and other AIs on hypotheticals. That is not a realistic number that you're looking at if you're continuing to contribute $5,000 per year. You think that's a little over the top right there with the 13 million?
Well, I mean, 13 million, and they're saying that you're taking it to age 55, right?
At age 65. What is that? 65 or 55? I'm sorry.
It says 55 the way I see
Yeah,
it.
that's even worse. Yeah. I couldn't even run a hypothetical that way and an IRA or something like that unless you went out onto the open stock market and started hitting some 650% fucking returns every year.
But that's 55, but that's 55% with everything being reinvested and nothing being touched all the way to 55.
Right.
I think that sounds reasonable. Even let's half it. At the end of the day, I still think it's great numbers and someone's
Oh yeah, absolutely.
10
There's
M's. 10 M's would
ridiculous
be great.
numbers when it comes to people that never had access to this type of money. Ridiculous numbers when it comes to people that can barely afford, even once they get to Social Security, to live. So is it a bad deal for your children? Absolutely not. Even if your kid is 10 years or younger, I would still sign up for this thing and get your kids in with the $250 and start them down that road. Okay. So if you're thinking about it, don't think, just do it. And plenty of times you'll hear me say on this channel alone. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my new channel, Wealth Talks Legacy Walks. I'm simulcasting on my other channel. So I'm trying to get people over to my new channel where we talk about more financial matters instead of the travel side. So if you're in my room over there, please subscribe to my channel. And then later on, if you could drop in the private chat your channel link, obstacles for your new channel, Financial Frontier. Go ahead and subscribe to Obstacles new channel as well. So I just want to reach a different audience with this new channel versus just talking about travel and things that are going on and the travel community and alike. So the people that are interested in these kind of conversations, this is where we'll meet up at. But let's move on with this. So some of the scenarios I ran, and I ran several, puts this number a little. You have to be very, very lucky to get to 13 million, unless you're stealing something. I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but there's some politicians that have some huge growth. You get what I mean? But the normal person might be able to obtain this, especially if they have the financial wherewithal and the training as a young person. You never know. But again, you only can put up the $5,000 in this fund. So you don't have a lot of movement when it comes to how much you can put in the fund. The movement will come in if the fund hits certain financial support inside of that fund that causes that number to grow. That's where you don't have a lot of control. It's not like you can take that money and put it on the market and you pick and choose when you buy and sell to grow it. You can't do that. Not in this particular fund. And that's why I say the number is a little skewed because you don't have the control on what vehicles that interest is gained off of. It's the mutual fund or the IRA account that decides what those growth factors are. Okay. But let's get into this video and we'll jump ahead and back and we'll get out to certain fine points that he brings out during his conversation by breaking down this new fund.
So billionaires Michael and Susan Dell just committed to a $6 billion donation to the federal government to be added to the proposed Trump accounts, which are set to begin next year. So this is one of those one-day feel-good stories that you probably don't care about, but there's a subtext to this gambit that needs to be unpacked and understood. At the risk of sounding entirely cynical, this generous and somewhat innocuous gift is masking terrible intent on the part of this administration. See, it's part and parcel of a much larger effort underway to privatize the government, prop up the stock market, and provide yet another benefit to wealthy families under the guise of philanthropy. And as usual, none other than the worst hedge fund manager on the planet, who's now in charge of our money, gave the whole game away. So you have that to look forward to.
All right, I want to pause it right there. And what do you think about what he just said?
Don't care. Keep rolling. Keep pushing forward. It's in law. People have an opinion. It's irrelevant. It's important to give people assets and access to assets. He has no evidence. He's not able to convict anybody on those allegations in which he just said. And again, it's not feel good. $8 billion is a lot of money. And whether it's genuine, not genuine, it still goes to children. And anybody trying to talk that away and talk that down is not putting up $6 billion themselves. I don't want to hear much from them besides their opinion and keeping it pushing. So shout outs to him, but don't care. Okay.
I agree. And like I said, the funds are being managed and they're being reviewed. So even though it might give that brokerage firm a access to a lot of investment wealth, at the end of the day, we're talking about your child, not your personal feelings about who's managing it. You get what I mean? And yes, they get a commission for managing, and there's fees, but hopefully they'll charge those fees back to the government for managing. I'm not sure how that's going to work, and they're still kind of bringing out little details. Huh?
And if not, it would be government workers managing the fund,
Right.
and they would get paid, and it would be from the taxes. So it's the same thing. So
Right.
at the end of the day, and the government only hires private sector to actually complete tasks in our world. You know what I'm saying? Like they hire SpaceX to do launches. They hire X cleaning company to clean their buildings. So at the end of the day, I think that just happened. But I get people are going to have issues with it. But we're giving money to children. And so that's important. And they have assets. And I think that's important.
Right. All right, we're going to go ahead and press on.
For the Midas Touch
How about
Network,
you put up 6
I'm Max
million?
from UNFTR. So let's walk through this together. This year, they were supposed to be, but they're actually going to be established next year. Then we'll do a little bit of math before we get into what's really behind all of this. So the big idea behind the Trump accounts, and yes, that is literally what they're being called, is to automatically create an investment account for newborn babies, to verified U.S. citizens, of course, and seed them with $1,000 directly from the U.S. Treasury. Now, in theory, parents can choose their preferred financial institution as a fiduciary, but even if they don't, or they're unaware that these accounts even exist, the accounts will be auto-created. So that's the whole idea. That's probably why it's not in effect yet. It's because this is going to actually take some time to work through the details. Now, the original name of these accounts, by the way, was MAGA accounts, which was an acronym for Money Accounts for Growth and Advancement, which should be clue number one that this is political theater at its best. Then they changed them to Trump accounts, which is probably clue number two that this is just political.
Again, that's all personal opinion. And like I said at the beginning of the show, we're not looking at the personal opinions of people. We're looking at the structure of the plan that's being implemented and the benefits for whoever participates in them. So it's a benefit for your child. I don't care what they name it. I don't care who's doing it. It's still $1,000 towards the benefit of your child. So personal opinions aside, we'll move on based on his observance.
Political theater. Now, here's how they're supposed to work because they, again, don't actually exist yet. The funds would be invested into a single diversified index fund that tracks the U.S. stock market. So no individual stock picking would be allowed. And then at age 18, beneficiaries can withdraw 50% for approved uses. These include education, down payment on a home for first-time home buyers, and business ventures, whatever that means. Anyway, at age 25, full access for these qualified expenses would occur. And then at age 30, total unrestricted access. Now, how they would go about qualifying a business is beyond me, but let's just go with it as it's stated. Again, it sounds harmless. And I honestly don't feel great about attacking this plan because there will be people that benefit from this. We all need a little extra cash, even if it's 18, 25, or 30 years from now, right? So let's level set here with some basic math. $1,000 in a stock index tracking account compounding over 18 years, right? Great. Let's be generous and assume a 6% annual return over that time period, which is totally in line with historical trends if you take all the major indices into account. But we also have to assume that there will be inflation and that it will continue at about 3% annually because that's what most economists are modeling nowadays. So that means that the inflation-adjusted value of this account, assuming no changes, meaning no adding to the account, no stock market crashes, so no changes to the upside or the downside, all things being equal, these lucky little babies would have an inflation-adjusted $2,800 in 18 years. And they'd be able to withdraw $1,400 of it, penalty-free, to use for that down payment for their college education.
All right, let's pause it right there. What are you thinking right now? What he's talking about? Have you heard a downside yet?
No, again, don't care. It's still in the surplus. It's
Right.
money. Yeah, it's a surplus. So, and it's an asset.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell a lot of people. If your company is giving you 6% matching, take the 6%. That's free money. Who cares? You know, take the 6% because they're screwing you out of your pension because nobody gets a pension anymore, which is guaranteed till you die. That's why they switched over to these 401k plans. And as you hear me talk in the future, I'll break down what the 401k plans were originally started to be. And Ted Benna, the person that invented them, never in his wildest dreams thought it would ever become a retirement vehicle. It's only supposed to be a short-term investment vehicle. So because there's a lot of volatility in 401k plans. I hate to tell you that. But I got my first super chat over my other channel. I appreciate it, Black Cleaner. Please support my old channel, but I definitely want you guys to at least come over and hit the subscribe button on the new channel. I'll take the super chats all day, though. So let me read this first one because it's a question. Thank you, Black Cleaner, for the $5 super chat. He says, my question is, what are we sacrificing? 401k got rid of defined pensions. So what is this getting rid of? I don't really think it's getting rid of anything, but I'm going to let Obstacles go first, and then I'll follow up after you.
Yeah, so I don't, 401k is still there. And again, with the pension thing, I'm not here or there on either side of that conversation. I think pensions come with its cons. And so as much people say pension, if the company that had your pension fails, then you lose your pension. End of conversation. If you have a 401k and the company fails, it's still your 401k. So it's irrelevant. And so with people who say they want more governance of their own life and say that they want to be individuals and sovereign, it doesn't make much sense to allow your company to manage your retirement in the form of a pension. And if you already, like you said, most people complain about companies having too much control over their salary, not doing right by them in this area and that area, not having work-life balance, not pods. And so with that being said, I'm completely fine with managing my own estate because I'm a man who charges my household's future and destiny. I do not rely on anyone else. So I do like the new forms. Of course, if there was a pension, then okay, I would take that too and be happy with it too.
Right.
Go to other countries that have neither.
Right. As an older guy, I tell you with the pension thing, and like I said, we'll go over the 401ks in the future and a strategy behind, you know, taking advantage of what the company's giving you, but also diversifying your portfolio. I hear a lot of guys tell me, and a lot of people that I consult with, hey, I got a promotion, so instead of the 5%, even though when their income increases on their job, they also have, you know, that 5% match is a little bit higher too, because you just got a raise, right? Well, they double up and triple up on the 401k plan. So you're deferring more of your money for later in life when what's guaranteed in life is death and taxes. So taxes percentages are always going to go up. So why would you continue to defer your money in a 401k plan where you can go ahead and take the taxable income and then invest it in something else that might grow faster or that can grow already tax deferred since you already took the tax hit on the income? And we'll go through that in a little while. You know, what is this getting rid of? And again, like I said, I don't think it's getting rid of anything. To tell you the truth, it is actually giving your children a head start because up to this point, and I'll wait, tell me in the chat, what other thing is out there right now that your child can take advantage of at birth that gives them some type of income? There isn't anything. I'll give you a quick answer. There's not one thing that you can do that the government does to give your child a head start right at this point. Okay. Yes, you can go out and get a Gerber plan. Yes, you can go out and do a whole bunch of things to set your kid up. And we'll talk about that in the future lives and future shows and videos that I put out. But currently, as it sits today, this is the first program, government supported program specifically, that gets your kid ahead. Whether they're disadvantaged, whether they have millions of dollars in their bank, whatever it may be. If anything, this is a level set. Don't you agree? Obstacles, this is a level set for people to say, oh, I have too many kids. I could never take the time to invest in anything for my child.
Yeah.
Gives them a leg.
Kind of did it for him with this.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing. I mean, I'm not a grown man. Even if Biden, whoever passed this, I wouldn't say much to it because at the end of the day, it's somebody, a baby, getting the asset. I don't know if I'm a grown man and I get on the internet and start talking against babies getting assets. Like, I don't know what kind of real position that is to say, oh man, these babies shouldn't be getting assets because X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, well, what do you have to offer the babies? Nothing. Okay, just argument and contention and conflict. If anything, the only thing you have to offer is an argument against the babies getting money. Sounds good for you. Yeah. No.
And let me say this further, because right now, as it sits with this plan, it runs from 2026. Basically, it starts in 2026, July the 5th. I'm gonna keep saying that because I want you guys to sign up for it. And if your child is less than 10 years old, there's another plan, but they only get access to $250 to initialize the IRA. But what I will tell you, that this plan is only approved from 2026 to 2028. When Donald Trump walks out of office, there's no guarantee this thing will be renewed. But it's locked in for now through the IRS tax code. So you either get in now, and what did we say? And I was just talking about this the other day on another live. I am kicking myself in the ass, even though I'm not a digital currency guy. I remember when Bitcoin was $18 a fucking coin. I remember when Bitcoin was $1,800 a coin. Then it's gone as high as 100 and something thousand to now dropping back down to 75. Had I known what I know now back then, what the hell is a couple $100 at $18 a coin? Where would I be right now? So don't lick a gift horse in the mouth by taking advantage of something right now that could benefit your kids so much more in the future and get them set up. Uh-oh. Before I can push the button, I got another super chat. Black Cleaner, I appreciate the $5 super chat. He's getting involved today. Okay. He says, I see this getting rid of child welfare and transitional assistance and children's health care. I can see this coming down the pipeline. Okay. I don't know what crystal ball you got, and I know you're a good guy when it comes to real estate. And what I'm saying is, again, the reason why I said there's a time limit is because the time limit only goes until the president comes out of office. The next sitting president could say, I'm retracting all that crap, or I'm fixing it in some way, or nah, this is a bad deal. You know, whatever happens, you only got a 4-year window right now to get in, you know, for your child. Now, what this long-term effect as far as child welfare and all these other things, that would be a drastic change for all these single mothers that are out there. They're already pushing them to go back to work. They're already pushing them to they're cutting down what you call SNAP benefits. You know, the illegal aliens are coming off the program, so does that free up a lot of money if they're deporting a lot of the immigrants that are not allowed to be here anyway, and they're here illegally? Will that start helping release benefits that are supposed to going back to the American people? Absolutely. And because they're stealing a lot of it. Obviously, there's a 9 billion plus surplus when it comes to Somalis shipping money overseas right now, just out of one state. Can you imagine how that's multiplied by every 50 some states that we have in the United States? You don't know what's going on in these other states that they're getting away with. It just hasn't been reported yet. So if you're still focused on immigration, you're putting people out that don't need to be in here, you're telling people that you don't have access to certain things that we freely gave as Americans for them to take advantage of, and then thumbing in our noses that we're stealing from you and you should be happy that we're here type of thing, those guys are going to be gone. So that money is going to go to the people that need it, which are the American people. That money is going to go to the children that need it, which are American children that are born here legally or have obtained their citizenship legally. You get what I mean? So I don't think the long-term effect is going to go that far, because Donald Trump currently cannot renew his presidency. He's already done 2 terms. It's up to the next president to say whether this is going to continue on past the 2028 deadline of how long this policy is going to work. But once it's in the system and it's already in the IRS tax code, all the government can do is support the system as it sits for those 4 years of eligibility. You know, so if I were you, if you were planning on having kids, come in the next couple years and take advantage of this plan. What'd you say?
Yeah, I definitely agree. If you want to have some kids, I guess it would be a perfect time.
Right. But again, thank you, the Black Cleaner. And we're going to go ahead and press through on this video real quick, because I know you got another thing you got to get to.
Education or some nebulous startup business venture that no one can figure out. Now, penalty-free, but not tax-free, because these are tax-deferred accounts, not tax-exempt accounts.
So to that point, Black Cleaner, you are right. It is kind of like a kid's 401k plan, because what is a 401k plan? A tax-deferred plan. You can contribute into the plan with money that comes out of your salary without it being taxed. Now, the other thing I would say is, unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring out the negative for you contributing, but it's still a benefit to your child. That $200, right, that you're paying into the plan, guess what? It was taxed. So you're taking taxed money and throwing it back into a tax-deferred growth plan. That's a double tax on every payment that you put in the plan, but it's for your children. It's not like you can pre-tax out into the plan. But what I've heard is not only are several companies contributing, what we'll go over, into the plan by matching the 1,000 for 1,000. So some of your jobs that are out there will match. So instead of the kids starting off with 1,000, they'll be starting off with 2,000. 2,000 initial dollars. Okay. And then the other thing is, on some of the 401k plans now, they're setting up an option for the parent, and the companies will support it. Up to 2,500 of that 5,000, they'll contribute out of your payroll account, which would make it tax deferred money at that point, which I think is the smartest way for you to do it. If you can put some tax deferred money in it directly out of your paycheck, I would do that, because it would be easier for you to go ahead and contribute if you have to think about it and then actually separate and put that fund in every month. Some people are going to forget based on what's going on. Out of sight, out of mind is all what I'm saying. If you have some way of automating that contribution, do that, because it's going to benefit your child. It's not going to be a thought process in your head after it gets done. It's just another deduction on your payroll check but it's contributing to your child. What do you think about that, Obstacles?
Sounds like a game plan to me. I think
Right.
again, all these are good game plans. They're the basis, and even after the guy finishes talking about this numbers and inflation adjusted yield, at the end of the day, I remember me early on when I started to invest, I was doing CDs, bruv. Like I was calling up Navy Fed, and I'd be like, "You got the 3.5 CD, right?" And then I thought I was making big moves though, Ronan, right? But
Right.
those were the basis. That was me practicing my layup and how to shoot my layup going off the right foot, right? It was the small little steps that it took me to save pennies and nickels that eventually downstream, now I'm the complicated or more sophisticated investor I am. I'm laughing at a 3% yield, but I still don't disrespect it. I still take advantage of any small little 1, 2, 3% I can get. So whether that be taxes or whether that be investings and savings. So at the end of the day, I think it's wise. And the scoff at 3% yield is nothing funny. I used to do CDs. That was the foundation of me being an investor. That's where I started at.
Right.
And yes, I kept up with inflation. Okay. That's good. I don't want to be behind. And most people are behind inflation. So again, progress forward does not have to be 20 steps in order for it to be legit. It could just be one.
Yeah. And yeah, I said that earlier, Drew. I don't know if you heard me. This is already established in the IRS tax code. It is it's actually enacted law now, and it is running as of July the 5th. I'm gonna keep on saying that date. And actually, as you file your taxes this year, if you have a newborn baby or a baby born last year, 2025, that's when it started, 2025, January 2025. So as you file your taxes here in 2026 for last year, enroll your child while you file your taxes into this plan that starts July the 5th. Okay? So yes, absolutely. It's already in law. It's already enacted and it's going to run. Thank you again. Black Cleaner is coming in to become the channel sponsor. Another $5 super chat. He says, I see getting rid of child welfare. And, oh, wait a minute. He already did that. I already did that. But this is a comment from Drew G before we get into that. Yeah, it's one big, beautiful bill act. And yes, the administration has already closed it. It is a law. It's already IRS tax code, which I showed earlier. It's official. It's starting July the 5th. All right.
Let's expand our view and look at it from the government's perspective. Another provision of the plan would allow families to contribute up to $5,000 a year to these accounts. Great. Now we're talking. It's amazing news that just happens to coincide with the median average of household savings in America under the age of 35, typically the age of people having babies. So you get to devote and deplete your entire savings in one shot to fund this new Trump baby account. Also, if you're new to investing,
that's a bit facetious the way he said that. The fact that you're depleting your savings to support the baby that you gave birth to or you fathered, whatever. Like I said, if you break that down, it's $200 a month if you want to fund the full $5,000 per year. Again, I also said that you can have half of that taken out of your payroll checks, depending on what company you work for. They will contribute into the fund. You give them the necessary information in HR. They'll just drop it initially into that fund up to $2,500 per year. So then it's $100 of your money that's taxed versus the tax deferred money that's coming out of your payroll check. There is no downfall. So this guy is, like I said, he's putting his personal opinion on the system already, and it hasn't even started yet. And that's not what we're going to do here. Okay, we're going to break down the systems as they sit. Be damned who's doing it and who's talking about it.
and you're just letting all that money rot in some little savings account, don't worry, because the Trump administration is already coordinating with the great stewards of personal savings like Goldman Sachs and Robinhood to help you manage these accounts. And I'm sure it's all going to work out just fine. So there are approximately 3.6 million babies born each year in the United States. Originally, the money was going to cover babies born between 2025 and 2029, though red tape and all that means that it won't start until next year. So let's assume that it goes another full year after that, so we have 4 full years covered. It's pretty easy math. 3.6 million babies, $1,000 each. That's $3.6 billion a year. That's $14.4 billion over the 4 years, but the Joint Committee on Taxation estimates that administrative costs will push it closer to $17 billion. Now, to put that in perspective, the total federal budget is $6.5 trillion. So this is roughly 0.5% of government spending.
That sound like a bad thing to you? They can put it in everything else. They can put it into war. They can put it into this. They can even throw it overseas to Ukraine and Israel and everything else. But it's such a bad thing to put it into your own children in the United States. How dare them? How dare them invest in their own people? Isn't that what we've been asking for?
Yep, exactly.
That's exactly what we've been asking for. Invest in us. Invest in your own people. Stop sending our money overseas. So while he's making a big deal of $3-point-something billion, which is a drop in the bucket based on the national budget that we have, budgetary requirements for all the different departments and all the different things we do, not only federally, but statewide. But you're making it sound like it's a bad thing that they're doing it. When that's all we've been asking for. Invest in our roads, invest in our infrastructure, invest in our people. Well, they're doing it. And you still sound like it's a negative thing when you give your commentary.
Negative.
I don't get people. They're never happy.
Maximum publicity, minimal impact. So what's the problem, right? Is this just Trump derangement syndrome? Am I that incapable of giving flowers to this administration? Maybe a little bit, maybe a smidge, a little bit. Actually, I have a huge problem with this. Not necessarily in what it is, but what it's designed to accomplish, the intent behind the whole thing. So bear with me.
And he knows the intent.
Let's start by drawing a comparison, because the biggest comparison that the GOP is trying to draw is with the 529 program for education savings, which is by all measures a very popular and very successful program.
And a very big
So to
waste of
start,
time.
529 plans offer superior tax benefits, with earnings growing tax deferred and withdrawals for the qualified education.
Okay, hold up. Did he just not say that it was tax deferred too? But he's trying to make it sound like it's better than the tax deferment of this plan that Donald Trump is putting together. They're both tax deferred. That's the same thing. They're not any different. And the 529 plan is not the greatest thing in the world. I will tell you what the greatest thing in the world is later. But it's not the 529 plan if you want to do the best thing for your child, for its future, and not even if the child doesn't want to come to. Everybody's not a brainiac. Everybody's not going to have the desire to go to college. But that 529 plan can only be used for college. And you're going to take a huge penalty if you use it for anything else or you try to liquidate it. So you could be saving for 18 years and that bright child of yours ain't so bright. Or that bright child of yours already is running its own company by the time it's 18. It doesn't need to go to college. It's running a corporation already. Isn't that the point of going to college? So the fact that these people are still relying on some of these vehicles that were invented, like the 529 plans, to encourage their children to go to college, when not a lot of the kids that are being born now are actually going to college. And then what did we just recently discover? Most college degree kids are still unemployed. They want the experience over the college degree now. So there's a debate right there. What's better for your child? And then what is your child at the time that it becomes 18 going to want to do? Because you ain't got no crystal ball. I'm going to tell you as a father of 4. Let me count 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4.
You gotta count,
I had to count
count.
because I got one stepson. So it's father 5, but I don't claim the other one because he doesn't claim me anymore since I divorced his mom. But that's a whole nother story.
Expenses being entirely tax-free at the federal level. And starting in 2024, unused 529 funds can even be rolled into a Roth IRA for the beneficiary. Trump.
Now that's wrong. What he just said was wrong. You cannot take a tax-deferred vehicle and roll it into a tax-free vehicle without what? Initially taking the tax hit on liquidating the IRA account or whatever account you're in, taking a taxation hit and then a one-time taxation hit, and then rolling it into a tax deferred account like a Roth IRA. They are not a like for like item. That's the only way you can do a 1035 exchange on any kind of policy, even if you're moving money from a house sale into a investment sale, so you don't have to take the tax hit on your sale. You can roll your money on a 1035 exchange out of your freaking house sale into a Roth, not a Roth, but a regular IRA or some kind of taxable account to further grow on. And then you can defer taking that tax hit until you really need to touch the money. Again, this guy is giving you half truths in order to narrate his own directive on why he's cutting this. And yet he is showing a lot of partial comments towards the idea because of the Trump administration, not the benefit of it.
By contrast, provide tax deferral, but withdrawals ultimately are taxed at long-term capital gains rates, even for approved uses. So while Trump accounts allow broader uses, like home purchases and these nebulous business ventures, the flexibility comes at the cost of less favorable tax treatment. And I can't wait to see how many scams appear in 18 years to help people set up those businesses. Anyway,
like I said earlier, this guy is really, biased. And what I said was, over the next 18 years, if you're not financially becoming savvy and getting your kid ready for these funds, you failed as a parent. You should be going through financial literacy with your child if you don't understand it, so that you can advise your child by the time they're 18 on what the proper use of that money is. And you should also be sending your child through certain things to understand how money works, how it's spent, and give your child some exposure early in life, giving them a little seed money and seeing what they can do to grow. And then when they take those losses, they learn from taking those losses early before they have access to large sums of money. These are the things you should be doing as a parent to instill in your child fiscal responsibility. That's a big word for a lot of people because they don't even know what it is, because they spend like nobody's business. And unfortunately, in the Black community, we have a high spend rate and a low savings rate, and that needs to be changed.
In terms of penalties, non-qualified withdrawals from Trump accounts face ordinary income tax plus a 10% penalty on gains. So the bottom line is, if you want effective education savings, use a 529 plan all day, every day.
Don't do it.
But I have a better comparison. The expanded child tax credit under the American Rescue Plan of 2021 cut child poverty by 46 to 55%, with the supplemental poverty measure showing that child poverty dropped to a record low of 5.2% in 2021, which was down 9.7% from the previous year. The child tax credit was increased to $3,600 per child under the age of 6 and $3,000 per child ages 6 to 17, with payments made monthly from July to December 21st. That was it, providing $250 to $300 per child per month to most American families. Now, for many American families, the direct payment mechanism of Today Money was a godsend. The credit was made also fully.
Okay, the time frame that he's using is recovery from the pandemic, when a lot of people couldn't go to work, a lot of people had to sit in the house, and some people weren't being subsidized the proper way. That money that he's talking about was money that was being paid out monthly to people that had children based on recovering from the pandemic. What is he talking about? Anybody know in the chat what he's referring to and how that's an advantage? Because most of the parents are not spending that on the child. Most of the parents are doing that for the household. Most of the parents are not putting it in the savings account for their child to have an advantage later in life. That's a deflection based on the facts, if you really look at what he's saying.
Refundable, allowing families.
No, go ahead.
No. I did have to go out to this cybersecurity convention,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I gotta get ready. I gotta be all spiffy. You
Right,
get what I'm
right, right,
saying?
right.
So, anyway, the Prime Minister of Thailand is going to be there, so I think it's going to be pretty exciting. This is my first
Yeah,
experience.
man. Good luck with that.
Yes,
Congratulations
sir.
too, man.
But let
VIP
me say
status
something
and
about this
everything. Go
Buster.
ahead.
No, I'm just kidding. Let me address this, and I think this is the big difference. And I've always said this before: we don't have wage stagnation; we have asset stagnation. One of the biggest issues in the United States of America is people just don't own assets. It's not about wages; it really translates with wealth generation and creation, which is held in assets, whether that be real estate, private equity, public equities. And so, what this is doing specifically is giving those kids assets. Giving parents money is not giving them assets. Again, the rich get richer not by government giving more money or people getting money. It's because they own assets. And at the end of the day, this is what it is doing. It is putting money not just in some account where money just sits, it sits in somewhere where it buys up assets, maybe ETFs, indexes, and etc. Right? And those
Exactly.
assets appreciate. And so what we're doing is that he's not having a wealth conversation. He's having a social conversation. Now I have to disengage because I am at the financial frontier, not the social yacht frontier. And so at the end of the day, shout outs to the big homie RT, shout outs to the new wealth channel. I'm going to come back and drop some more nuggets if I'm invited again, but I greatly
Of course you
appreciate
will
it.
be.
Again, excuse me for
Of course
having
you
to
will be.
leave. I just got to go do this conference, and
And congratulations on the VIP status and being the big guy on the stage. Even do you have to
yo,
do a formal speech, or are you just kind of being recognized?
nah, just kind of being,
Yeah, I
But
know, I know.
one thing I would say is this is I've always said, like, the opportunities once you become a competent and confident individual just open up. I reached out to the convention and I told them, we do have a cybersecurity product, and I'm also a venture capitalist, but I just like to call myself a family office. Anyways, he was like, "Oh man, that sounds great. I'll bump you up to VIP. You could come early for the opening ceremony." And so what I'm saying is there's so much opportunities, and what you find out is if you pick up a phone or send off an email, the world would open up. If you offer value, the world will open its arms to exchange value with you. And so the accomplishments of an individual can be great regardless of where you're born, where you come from, who was your mama, and what your daddy did. And I think that 1,500 or 1,600 or 800, like you said, that will go a long way for me at the age of 18. And so at
Right.
the end of the day, shout outs to Trump and the fund plan and anybody else. And we do have Obamacare. So again, he's just really criticizing that administration, not necessarily the actual fundamental layers of the conversation. So I greatly appreciate it. I just wanted to add that. And yeah,
No
you're gonna
problem.
see me in the papers. Nah, I'm just kidding. But peace out.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
I
Have a
appreciate
good one.
everybody. You
Mhm.
too.
All right, we're gonna restructure the screen real quick. All right, we're gonna continue on. We're gonna press on and finish this video. And then what I probably will do is a second live or even go through different scenarios on how this plan looks and what other investment vehicles that you can advise your child to get into by the time they become 18 and they have access to the money. Okay. Or a portion of the money.
With little or no earned income to receive the full benefit. And what it did was it put money in the pockets of people. And despite what Republicans like to say about these giveaways, the surveys all revealed the same thing. People used this money for food. They used it for rent, to pay down credit cards, just to breathe again. You see, when you give money directly to parents who really need it, they do what normal people do. They put food on the table, clothing on their children's backs, a roof over their heads. So in terms of
Okay. I'm a father. And yes, I did all those things. But if I have a way to contributing to my children's future indirectly without me having to think about it, why would I turn that down as a parent? Why is he making it seem like it's more important to do the immediate thing than the plan for the long-term thing. I believe that's being a big short-sighted on the way he prefaces and he narrates what he's talking about. You can either take care of the immediate need or plan for the future needs and leave a legacy benefit for your children based on the fact that the government's already giving you an advantage. And all you have to do is follow through on the plan. Just a little follow through, a little sacrifice now, so that your children can continue to benefit and get ahead of what you are and where you are right now. As most parents will tell you, they want their children to do much better than they did. You want your children to be more successful than you are. This is a great way of establishing a base to make those children better in the future than you are and you were at that age. So all this other rhetoric he's talking about does not matter.
In 2021, the total program was around $94 billion. $94 billion going to families who put it into immediate use. Money that circulated through the real economy instead of just padding the balance sheet of Goldman Sachs. And it relieved child poverty and hunger. So it's a total of 1.4% of the federal budget, but it's a fraction of the costs associated with things like Trump tax cuts. And we know it works because after the expansion expired at the end of 2021 and not renewing it, probably one of the biggest failures of the Democratic Party, child poverty rates spiked 41% the very next year and returned right back to pre-pandemic levels. But now let's be really clear about what these accounts are all about. Even without Michael and Susan's generous donation, we're talking about $3.6 billion directly into the stock market. With their donation, it's $9.
Okay, hold on. Let's not confuse the two funds. Okay. The $1,000 is coming directly from the federal government. The $6.25 billion that the Dells are contributing through their foundation is not for the babies. It's not part of that fund. That $6.25 trillion or $1 billion that is being donated is going towards children that would not be eligible in this program. Did you hear what I said? They would not be eligible if it wasn't for the Dells and other organizations starting to contribute. That program covers children ages 10 and younger who are not eligible because they weren't born in 2025. But he would lead you to believe that the Dell's involvement is some kind of negative instead of a positive in giving other kids an opportunity to flourish that would not even have an opportunity even with this new plan. You tell me. Is he kind of painting a picture in a negative light or a positive light? And sometimes you need to do the research or at least talk to people to understand what these policies are, because the media is not going to tell you the truth. He's not sworn an oath to tell you the truth on what's really going on. As a prior fiduciary, it's my responsibility to make sure I'm doing and giving the advice that's in the benefit of my clients, not me. And not my personal beliefs. So then you have to look at the people giving out financial advice and what their motivation is. Because they're not motivated for you. It's all about personal gain and exposure. And that's the difference. I'm going to continue on. We're going to finish this up.
It's $9.6 billion next year alone. Now that money is going to Wall Street because it's locked up for at least 18 years, and it can only go into the stock market by design. Now add the projected private contributions of up to $5,000 annually per account, and we're talking about tens of billions of new potential dollars in just flowing directly into index funds propping up the U.S. stock.
Okay. He just said tens of millions of dollars. I'm going to use his demonstration against him. Tens of millions of dollars that will otherwise be wasted on things that do not matter for your child's future. And you're complaining about it as if it's a negative. Focusing parents on something they should be focusing on that they haven't been because they are desperate in order to put food on the table or whatever is going on based on the economy. Now they have another outlet in order to put money in when they do have extra money for their children's future, where they didn't have anything like that before. And if they attempted to put in a savings, the minute they needed something, guess where they went? They went to the savings account and pulled out all that money they were planning on spending on their kids, which they felt bad about, but they still needed it right then. This is inaccessible funds that will only go to your children. Once you put it in, you cannot get it out. But that's a negative. Again, you have to call into question what people are giving you for as advice and where it's coming from.
But let's be real. Relatively few families can actually afford to pad these investment accounts considering they have no savings. So that means that the real compound gains from these accounts, which is what they are totally designed for, the real benefit of something like this is the compound interest that you get by being able to add more and more money into tax-deferred accounts. That means that the real gains behind all this go to people who already have money. Remember, the average savings of baby birthing parent age people is only $5,000 total. So the people who really benefit are those who have a lot more than that in savings already. And even though it's not a big deal at first, if these accounts continued past Trump's term, if they were just codified into law and that's just what we did, it would totally add up. And who's the beneficiary of that? Goldman Sachs. The major financial institutions managing these accounts will receive revenue through asset under management fees, creating another guaranteed income stream from taxpayer-funded accounts. This is a direct wealth transfer from the federal treasury to Wall Street portfolio managers disguised as a benefit for children, with the real compound gains made available to people who already have money. But wait, there's more. There's a long game as well. These Trump accounts serve a larger ideological purpose that extends way beyond their immediate budgetary impact. They represent yet another step in the decades-long conservative project to normalize private investment accounts as an alternative to public social insurance programs. And how can I say that with such conviction? Because the very worst hedge fund manager in the world, turned Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, said the quiet part out loud as usual. On a Breitbart panel earlier in the year promoting the idea of Trump accounts, he actually uttered these words. He literally called it a backdoor to privatizing Social Security.
And the problem with that is what? I'm curious. You guys see a problem with privatizing Social Security? Having control on your own destiny? Again, there are going to be people that are not financial savvy, and they need to take some kind of classes on, understanding how money works. And some people are just not going to get it. But I'm telling you, as a 50-year man, I'm not guaranteed at 65 to get Social Security. These children that are being affected right now probably will never see Social Security unless something turns around. It takes more and more working people in order to contribute to the Social Security fund than ever before. And it keeps increasing. So unless, like I said, all the baby boomers drop off and then we're Gen X, we drop off. And because the population growth has slowed down, that won't equal out for several years, if at all. So giving your children another option in order to grow some type of retirement fund or wealth for their future, I don't think is a bad thing. $1,000 seed money from the government to do that instead of sending it to Ukraine, Israel, or some other foreign country, instead of contributing it back to your own people, I think is a great thing. I get confused when people try to use some kind of, conspiracy in order to just stay on the facts. Keep it to the facts. Is this a benefit or not? Is this something that's going to help the children within the next 4 years or not? Regardless if it continues. And again, he's talking as if this plan has to stay in place. It can be overturned the minute the president walks out of the office. That's why it's only guaranteed until 2028, 2029.
One of his bigger early gaffes that the White House had to scramble to clarify. See, the GOP has been trying to do this forever. This is very old. George Bush floated the idea and was almost impeached by his own party for saying it out loud. Asshats like Paul Ryan tried it during the Obama years because this is a Milton Friedman, Chicago school, free market, garbage libertarian idea that has been floating around conservative and libertarian think tanks for years because these guys want all of the money in the stock market. So by establishing Trump accounts, Republicans are conditioning Americans to think of government benefits as personal accounts tied to market performance instead of guaranteed public benefits. See, these accounts are subject to market volatility risks. We haven't even talked about that, meaning that the gains are themselves tied to stock market performance and funds are vulnerable to market declines. It's the complete opposite of Social Security's guaranteed benefits, for example, which aren't subject to market fluctuations. So you don't have to worry about the very same vampires on Wall Street destroying the equity markets like they did in the Great Recession.
Those are all facts. He's speaking all facts right now. That fund is a pro and a con. The con is it is subject to market volatility. But again, up until they're 18 years old, you can't control that. Once they're 18, there are some things you can do to move that fund into something else that the government will allow you to do. And it will be a lot safer. But at least, like I said, it's seed money. But he's talking all doom and gloom like he has a crystal ball and he can tell what's going to happen in the future of your children, not you.
Crushed or at least deferred retirement for millions of Americans. I mean, imagine committing yourself to these accounts and having them grow over time only to watch Wall Street piss away your gains at the moment that you're trying to buy a house or start a business. See, the psychological impact of this is crucial. Instead of the government fulfilling the role that it is obligated to do to provide for the general welfare of the citizenry as written in the Constitution, it's privatizing all of those mechanisms. So to recap, this is a fundamental shift from public insurance to privatized risk. Trump accounts take government funds and immediately hand them to private financial institutions to manage. They create a new revenue stream for Wall Street while providing minimal benefits to families compared to programs that already exist. And that's assuming that you can afford to really participate in the way that it's designed, which is to put in matching funds that no one has. All this does is increase inequality and puts vital.
Didn't I just say the companies will allow you to contribute up to half of the $5,000 a month or $5,000 a year into the plan directly out of your payroll check? That's $100 a month that you can pay into the plan directly out of your payroll account. What is he talking about? Now, you do understand the contribution on pre-tax dollars, right? The contribution on your pre-tax dollars means even though you might make $80,000 a year, if you're pre-taxing out your dollars, that's not subject to taxation at the time. So if you max out and pay another $2,500 per year into your child, that's $2,500 as less accounted on your overall annual income, which is not taxable. So it's still a benefit to you as the parent. My only question is, if you have two parents at work, if they each contribute $100, then they're basically contributing to the full $5,000 per year, and if that's allowable, or would they cut each parent down to 50? Those are the things I have to look at on the nuances.
Funds at risk due to market volatility. This is another masterclass in political theater. Just expensive enough to generate headlines, but cheap enough to avoid real budgetary sacrifice. These aren't investments into your child's future, or the country's for that matter. They're investments into the hands of the investor class. So if billionaires like Michael and Susan want to make an actual impact on the lives of children in Trump's America, they'd be better served putting this money into food banks.
By the way, let me stop you right there. If you guys go back and look at Michael and Susan's foundation, the Dell Foundation, that is what they're known for. The reason why they're getting involved in this plan is because it's helping children. And the reason they're getting involved in the plan is because they feel like not just newborns need to be given the money, but older children need to be given the money. Understand, their contribution is going towards children 10 or younger, not newborns. That 6.25 billion would no longer have been used for the newborn babies because the government's already financing that. That's being financed towards 10 and younger, ones that do not even qualify for the plan. But he's making it seem like they're contributing to the plan. This is outside in addition to that plan. That wasn't a good idea. And then they say, oh, we're going to make it better. We think kids less than 10 years old need to be able to contribute to that plan too. And by the way, we'll give $250 for each child less than 10 years old up to the maximum of their $6.25 billion. Again, where is the negative?
The last available data from 2023 showed that more than 50 million people accessed food from charitable food banks. And you know that number has only gone up. So the Dells said they also hoped that other billionaire friends of theirs would step up to participate in these Trump accounts. So imagine if they convinced their friends to donate to food banks so we could feed people today instead of 18 years from now, to put food on the table today instead of management fees into the pockets of Goldman Sachs. Or how about this crazy idea? Maybe we don't have billionaires at all. Maybe we have a society that doesn't rely on food banks.
So now we're getting into talking about communism, where wealth is equally shared. And it's really not equal. So I don't get where he's coming from, but he's getting close to borderline communism.
Feed 50 million people. I mean, what are we even talking about here? So yeah, if it sounds like cynicism, that's because this whole goddamn thing is cynical. It's another way for billionaires to guilt wash their money by what? Putting $2,800 into a few million pockets 30 years from now? I'm more than cynical. I'm angry. And so is every American struggling paycheck to paycheck, or online at that food bank, or cutting back this holiday season.
No, they're not. They're not angry at all. Because they would not otherwise have access to that money. And nobody said anything about, these are all assumptions, privatizing Social Security. That hasn't really been brought up as a law. Just because somebody said it doesn't mean it's true. Social Security is its own separate system. And we can get into that on another live, or I might do a video on it. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys would like to hear me either do a video on or live on to break down that system. But Social Security is on its own separate system. It has never been really threatened. The only threatening factor is the contributors into the plan. They're taking more and more people because people are living what? Longer. So it's stressing the plan because you need to replace the people that aren't working with the people that are. And since population has dropped on baby production, because we're no longer having 10 and 15 kids per freaking family, there's less people working. Less people paying into Social Security, which means there are more people contributing to one person for every one person on Social Security currently. Now, when there's a huge death of all the baby boomers that drop off in the next generation or whatever, then that pressure will be released a little bit. When Gen X dies, that pressure is going to be released even more, because more and more families have been smaller and smaller as the generations gone by. They've had the option of not getting pregnant. They've had the option of going out and getting abortions. And this is why they try to outlaw abortions. A certain population is dropping off, and they don't want that to happen either. And they're becoming more and more a minority. But that's politics. That's not really what this plan is about, is it? This plan is about giving your kids an opportunity for a head start, no matter what. That's $1,000 your child would have never had, especially from the government, that has potential weight and opportunity to grow without anybody touching it, not even your parents, until you become 18. And then it makes it easier for the parents to contribute to it, because some companies not only are matching, so instead of $1,000, it could be $2,000 worth of seed money. And then they're allowing you to fund it through pre-tax dollars out of your payroll check to help your children, your legacy. But he would have you believe taking care of the here and now is better than preparing your kids for the future that is uncertain, because he has this crystal ball that's telling everybody the same thing. He's entitled to his opinion, but I don't think it's right.
Season because they have to make rent. These are end times capitalism publicity stunts designed to make billionaires like Mike and Susie feel better about themselves and whitewash the deeds of an administration determined to destroy the administrative state. Their words. Determined to privatize everything that we hold dear, from healthcare coverage to Social Security. Scott Bessent's words. It's time to stop falling for these gimmicks. For the Midas Touch Network, I'm Max from UNFTR. You can find me pretty much this pissed off all the time over at UNFTR on YouTube and at UNFTR on Blue Sky.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your information. But at the end of the day, it's up to you as a parent to be fiscally responsible and prepare your kids for whatever future they're gonna have. Does this kick the can down the road? Let's analyze this. If this program was not available and you had a child within the next 4 years, would you be available to put anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 into a plan? And then would you faithfully contribute to that plan every month until that child is 18 years old? I can guarantee you that you will not be able to do all those things. Not consistently, and not to a point where the child is going to benefit without you, during an emergency, wanting to have access to those funds. It's happened too many times. That's why savings accounts are where they are within the community, and nobody can live 2 to 3 months without a paycheck, because that's how far away they are from basically being broke and poor and kicked out of their homes. They don't have the wherewithal of the finances to support themselves. So if you leave it in the hands of the individual, none of this will get done. Not one thing. Nothing will change, and money will be the same. So I would say to anybody in closing, take advantage of this plan within the next 4 years, starting July 5th. I'm going to do another video on different scenarios and ideas of the plan, and also investment ideas of what you can do at 18 to advise your child when they do have access, to move that plan into something a little more secure to where it can grow safer, but still have the same benefits. We'll talk about all that later. We wanted to break down the rules, and we wanted to break down what this system is all about based on the hype that's going on right now. And we wanted to give it a solid look without putting any type of politics or personal opinion. Is it an opportunity? It's absolutely an opportunity. Is it free money? Absolutely, it's free money. And other companies are willing to jump in and give you even more money. And if that keeps happening over the next 4 years, your child is going to benefit from it. And why couldn't they? And why shouldn't they? Like I said, I had the privilege of being around when Bitcoin was only 18 and I didn't jump in. Bitcoin was 1800. Bitcoin was 2300. I didn't jump in. Am I kicking myself in the butt now? You don't know what your children are going to have access to in the future. Nobody has that crystal ball. Nobody can predict what's going to happen. And again, like I said, this plan only runs for 4 years. What happens after 4 years is up to the next president. Whether this stays enacted, whether it stays funded by the government, is up to the next president. Why are we losing our minds over a 4-year funded plan? Yeah, Black Cleaner, there will be some plans that only have $2,000 in account, and that's it. No other funds will be contributed. The parents won't do anything additional, and I'll run over some preliminary scenarios like that just to show you what it would look like at the end of the 18-year mark, and then at the end of the 27-year mark, and then at the end of the 55-year mark. If you run it back a little bit, you'll see those things. But at the end of the day, and I'm going to take that further and show you other investment vehicles and how they work and what that plan can do for your child to give them even further ahead in a tax-free environment with that money. So in closing, like I said, it's an opportunity for your child that they wouldn't have had for the next 4 years. It's not going to be guaranteed to carry on more than 2029 or so, unless the next president agrees to letting it run even further. If other companies are getting behind it, just like your 401k, and they're contributing 6% match on whatever your deposit is, why wouldn't you take advantage of this for your child? If you can pay for it and forget about it within your pre-tax dollars, which is also a tax advantage to you as the parent, why not do it? Why is there such a pushback to having some other way of establishing wealth for your children way ahead of time and teaching them the benefits of being fiscally responsible ahead of time? Not after they've already run up their credit and they come to you and ask you, Dad, Mom, I don't know what I'm doing with the money. Why don't you teach them now so that when they have access to it, they have a better idea what to do with it? And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the live. I'm at 1 hour and 36 minutes. And stay tuned for future lives. If you're not on my channel, Wealth Talks, Legacy Walks, and you're over on my other channel, please subscribe to the new Wealth Talks, Legacy Walks channel, and you'll get more information and videos like this. Thank you. Bye.